G'day, I'm Pete and I'm the Aussie Bush Cop. I'm going to be sharing with you some stories about my time in the New South Wales Police Force. I had a tumultuous time as a police officer up there, and because of that I decided to retire and move to this beautiful island in the middle of Bass Strait called King Island, where I became a homesteader. I had chickens and ducks and Highland cattle and a whole bunch of stuff going on where this is my cure for being in the New South Wales Police Force, and look forward to sharing my stories with you. G'day, how you going? For any non-Australian viewers, I might need to explain some of my figures of speech. The expression g'day is just an abbreviation of a good day. It's uniquely Australian, and so that's what g'day means. I also use the word bloke, B-L-O-K-E, and that just means a man, probably in the same way Americans might use the word guy. Anyway, thanks for joining me again, and I'm going to tell you another story that tails on from the last one involving a fellow that I've called John. In this story, his mother, John's mother, came to the police station again a few months later to report a very similar incident to the police, and she needed police involvement in getting rid of her son out of our house because, again, he had threatened to cut her throat whilst she was sleeping. If you're familiar with the cycle of domestic violence, you'll be familiar with that no doubt in the intervening time between the first arrest and this next one, they'd made up, he'd said he'd never do it again, she'd forgiven him, and he'd moved back into the family home. But of course, it repeated itself. Anyway, this particular time was night time, and I just happened to be in the foyer area of this police station. This police station I'm talking about is a large police station with a contingent of around 150 police. And I happened to be in the foyer, fortunately, when the inspector was being spoken to by this lady, and I overheard the conversation, and the inspector was deciding who to send. And I stepped up and I said, "Sir, you'd better send me and my partner because this fellow is a risk of suicide by cop." And suicide by cop is just a phenomena where people know that if you approach a police officer in a threatening way with an edged weapon or indeed a firearm, you will be shot and most likely killed. So anyway, the inspector said, "Okay, Peter, you better go with your partner." So we went down there, and one of the benefits from the first arrest was that it was resolved, you might say, peacefully. And when we got there, we went to the front door. This time he didn't come out of the house. We went to the front door, knocked on the door, and I said, "John, it's Peter. You remember me from last time?" And because the first matter had been dismissed under the Mental Health Act, I was aware that it was rather pointless taking him to the police station. So I said to him, "Come with me, John, and I'll take you to Dubbo Base Hospital where you can speak to the doctor." He readily and quickly agreed with that. So without any incident at all, we took him up into the truck, put him into the cage, and we took him to Dubbo Base Hospital. This was a very busy night, Friday or Saturday night, I recall. And the inspector left me there on my own with this prisoner. And we're in a relatively small room. And of course, we went into the accident and emergency section of the hospital. Dubbo Base Hospital is a big hospital. And we were left in there awaiting his turn to be seen by the doctor. Now, there was nothing urgent about his treatment. It's not like he had a broken bone or, had some injury that required prompt attention. So we were there for some time, and my friend John said, I want to have a smoke." I said, "John, we're in a public hospital. You cannot smoke in a public hospital." And he then became immediately enraged. His demeanour turned, to use an American expression, on a dime. He stood up, he pulled his hand back over his right hand back over his right shoulder like that, and he was ready to run at me. And so I had capsicum spray, and but it was pointless using capsicum spray in such a small area because it would affect me almost as much as it affected him. So, and taser we weren't issued with tasers at the time either. So I rushed at him, and I immediately, as I rushed at him and turned him around, and I pinned him up against the back wall, and I was roaring at him. And then I put my heavy boot, into the back of his legs and dropped him to his knees. And he said the same thing that he said before: "Don't hurt me, don't hurt me." It seemed at that point that he reverted, you might say psychologically, to being a little boy. And when I said that, and certainly using a raised voice to do that, the room immediately was full of people, meaning hospital staff. There was nurses, hospital security, and a doctor. And the doctor, ordinarily I would put myself in subjection to a doctor. I mean, they're the authority. But I said to him, the doctor seemed perplexed to know what to do. And I think he was shaking with fear. And I said to the doctor, "Fill him full of jungle juice," meaning a sedative drug. And he was, you might say, not violently, but he was given a sedative drug, which immediately calmed him down. And that's just the nature of policing. Things turn so quickly. They can turn from being almost calm to extreme violence in an instant. And that's the nature of policing. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll tell you the next story when we meet again.